Dan Schneider, he made some of the biggest kids shows of all time, from Zoe 101 to Drake and Josh and iCarly. But during the making of these shows, a lot of bad things happened behind the scenes. From Dan being inappropriate in the writers' rooms, to making some of the child actors do very, very questionable things. Even making a Twitter post asking children for pictures of their feet. And that's only the start. And it all came out in this new documentary, Quiet on Set, where they discussed the bad things that happened when Nickelodeon was in its prime. But Dan Schneider released an interview with T-Bone from iCarly on the Dan Schneider channel. But let's look at the best bits to see if he's guilty or innocent. Spoiler alert, he's pretty guilty. So let's watch it and just see what the man says, okay? Let's just see what let's hear him
It's
out.
Boogie. I played T-Bone on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes.
First of all, this is definitely bullshit. This is on the Dan Schneider channel, and it was released like a day, not even after the documentary came out. This was coordinated before the documentary. This man is lying. Listen, T-Bone, I thought was the GOAT. I love T-Bone on the show, but this man is lying, and he's a Dan Schneider apologist.
Dan talked to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses. Most TV writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms, and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. And I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my early experiences, my first experiences in the entertainment business. I was green, I was scared, I was excited. It meant the world to me that I was getting those opportunities. And I went in and I got lucky because they were great. My first couple of experiences were fantastic. And the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my door, it hurts my heart because I should have. And I wish I could go back and fix that. In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale, and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far, and that was wrong.
I mean, he's acting like the writer's room always has inappropriate jokes, but he is writing for a kids show. Making those inappropriate jokes when you're writing for fucking Henry Danger, I mean, it's weird. And it wasn't even that long ago that it happened. He's acting like this was 40 years ago, but like 2018 he left Nick, and he was even doing it then. And everyone should know, if you're writing for a kids show, just maybe tame on the sexual jokes, you know, because you'll end up with some sort of charge at that point, you know. Very, very weird, Mr. Schneider.
You know, I was an inexperienced producer, I was immature, wouldn't happen today, but
It wouldn't happen today because he hasn't stepped foot in a writer's room in about 5 years.
Sorry it happened.
Yeah. Now, we know you've had a lot of success over 2 decades. Thousands of people have worked with you, for you.
Okay.
Let's speak directly to the people who did not have a good experience with you.
Okay, I would like to speak to those people because I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time.
This is bullshit. So, well, like, what? Why is T-Bone saying speak to the people who you had bad experiences with? Why speak to them? Why not bring them into a court and let them speak to an officer? Like, what? T-Bone, why are you doing this? They're making it seem so much less bad than it actually is. Like, watch the documentary. What he did was terrible. And T-Bone's like, yeah, no, people might have had bad experiences. Like, that's the most understatement I've ever heard. You can't understate anything more than what you just did. T-Bone, fuck you.
And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never ever do.
What do you mean you let the pressure... Oh yeah, I just have so much pressure. Let me get into your fucking back. Did you like that? Yeah, just so much pressure I have. Let me just massage you. Shut up. That's not an excuse. Like, what? You're underplaying it so much. Like, what you did was bad. You're making it seem like you were mean to people. You weren't mean to people. You made them uncomfortable, and you're probably a pedophile. Like, you made it seem like it's so bad. He made it seem like he was doing inappropriate jokes with the writers. Like, what actually happened is that he was being misogynistic and just terrible to the female writers and acting like they were subhuman. Like, they're not jokes, bro. You were being an incel. Like, how can you cast that off as I made some bad jokes? Like, it doesn't compute in my brain. Have we been watching 2 different documentaries? And you can say on set that people may have had bad experiences with you, but you sexualized children, bro. It's not a bad experience. That's fucking jail time. What?
There specific things that you were doing?
Sure, I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer.
Okay.
I would not give people the time that
That's
they
not what
needed.
you're
I would
being
be in too
fucking
big a
charged
hurry to
for,
get on to the
Mr.
next thing I
Schneider.
had to
It's
do.
that you were
And
sexualizing children.
watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry, and let's talk
Well,
about
deal
it.
with them.
And I wish you'd had a better time, and I wish I could have shown you a better
Should have done it
experience.
at the time.
Yeah. Now, you've written hundreds of episodes. Thousands of jokes have been told.
Yeah.
But currently where we are, some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
These are such non-points. Get to the fucking root of the issue, you weirdo. You're making it seem like he's being accused of writing maybe some PG-13 jokes. No! He's being accused for asking on Twitter that he wants to see children feed. What's happening?
The thought process from the series is you had the power to just write a joke, and no matter what, it's going on TV. You just had that type of power.
No one cares about this, bro. I
notion
talk
that
about
I had
the
power
feet.
to just produce whatever I wanted and have it air is completely false.
Talk about the
Okay.
feet.
There were many, many levels of scrutiny. If nobody on the set, if all of the dozens and dozens of adults that were on the set, if they didn't say anything, if my bosses said, if they insisted, you got to make a change here, you got to cut that, I had to do it. I had no choice.
Got it.
That didn't make any sense. He was like, Schneider, what do you say to the people who say that they were terrified? And he was like, my bosses would have cut it anyway. And I was like, that's just not the question that was asked, you fucking idiot.
Or 2 women who spoke about a wage discrepancy. Now, I know that you don't divvy out salaries. Talk to me about that part.
Well, you're correct. I have nothing to do with paying writers. I never have. I've never made a writer's deal. And of all the writers I've been in a writer's room with, I never even knew how much most of them were getting paid.
Yeah, but we saw these 2 women who were writers for you sharing one salary. How does that happen?
It's very simple. There's a common practice in television when hiring writers.
This fucking T-Bone guy is... Dan, he's sucking up to that. You can tell he's just setting up the rebuttals. He's like making it as easy to rebuttal as possible, and it's such snakish behavior. This man should be ashamed of himself. This is crazy. This is worse than I expected.
Diversity has always been very important to me in my shows. If you go back to the very first Nickelodeon
This
show
T-Bone
I ever
guy
made,
is...
that's very evident, as it is in the second one, and then the first movie I ever
Dan,
made for Nickelodeon.
you're so
which
good,
starred
Dan. You
Kenan
wouldn't have
and
done
Kel.
anything
And
wrong.
every show I did after that had a lead black actor in it. I'm very proud of that. It's very important to me. And not only am I proud that they were in my shows, I'm exceptionally proud of the achievements they...
Brian Peck was not hired by you.
No, I did not hire Brian Peck.
Brian Peck was the guy that sexually assaulted Drake from Drake and Josh.
This was a Tolan Robbins production.
Yeah. And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And when Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom supporting Peck. A lot of them pretty famous. Of course, Drake was devastated that that happened.
Now, the Drake situation is crazy. It's very sad. It's probably the most sad and worst bit of the documentary. Basically, this guy Peck sexually assaulted him, obviously, and he tried to get him done in court.
Even more disappointing, 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters, praising him for who he was and asking for leniency, and they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree, and they still did this. That's baffling.
I mean, that is baffling. That's crazy.
Adults would do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know this, but Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me?
Danny boy, don't
with my
cry,
speech
Danny boy.
to the judge? And I said, of course. And I did. And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career. And here's the kicker that I really don't get. After he got out of prison and was, to my knowledge, a registered sex offender, he was hired on a Disney Channel show.
That's crazy.
I don't understand that.
Insane.
I don't understand.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, man. Are you okay? You want to take a minute?
Yeah, I'm all right. Let's keep going.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we really unpacked some important things. We set the record straight on a lot of things. Before I let you get out of here, I appreciate the vulnerability that you use in knowing that there's definitely things that you would have and should have done differently. Is there anything that we haven't discussed? Anything that if you could go back and navigate the journey differently, what would that look like?
Yeah, there's definitely things that I would do differently. One that I think would be really, really important is when you're hiring young actors, minors, to work in television, I would suggest that we have a licensed therapist there to oversee that process for the specific reason of making sure that those kids really wanted to do this job, that they really wanted to be on television. Maybe they should even be informed about what that means. What's it going to mean if you're famous? What's that going to mean on social media? What's it going to mean within your family? Let them find out. And then that way, if a kid doesn't want to be on a TV show, they can opt out. That psychologist, that therapist could come to us and say, this kid doesn't want to do it, or their parents aren't understanding of what's going to come. And then we could avoid the mistake of ever putting a kid in a TV show that didn't want to be there. And additionally, the main thing that I would change is how I treat people and everyone. I definitely at times didn't give...
So he doesn't talk about the biggest allegations of sexualizing kids and showing their feet at every point possible. I think he kind of thought that he kind of lumped it in with the comedy and it's kid humor. That's a poor point. He never mentioned, he should have straight up mentioned it, because the main thing about Dan Schneider is the feet thing. And he didn't mention it in this. Now, I do think Dan Schneider is a pretty evil man. I don't think he is as evil as Mr. Peck. That man he's something else. But I still think that he has some stuff to own up to that he just hasn't in this Dan Schneider Talks, which is probably just a scripted interview, what he wants to answer for. And T-Bone, you should be ashamed. Please subscribe. Anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.